Welcome back, YouTubers, to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. If you've been following me right now, as you know, I've been doing some mental health awareness series that I thought was of help and use to you guys. It is readily available, so I welcome you all right now, and hopefully everything that I've shared with you all so far has been educational and motivational, inspiring you to maybe share your stories or what have you, whatever it may be that you have come to my channel for any of your personal reasons, whatever that may be. And all further ado though, before I begin, if you are new to my channel as of today, my name is AspieAnswersAll, and basically I'm all about sharing my life story with the life journey of Asperger's syndrome versus OCD, depression, anxiety, and the like, that I'm hoping to share as tips and advice along the way, as long as basically that we can understand one another and connect with one another one way or another. I know that for a fact that for some of the stuff that I may be sharing may not be of help to others around me, but I'm all about here creating the mental illness series for a reason, to remove the stigma and stereotyping of the mental illnesses that come about in our everyday lives, regardless what it may be, as well as just, you know, removing people's mentality or thought patterns of what it will be like, you know, for people like me with Asperger's syndrome, and how it is basically in my life journey. Even though, like I kept saying in the very beginning when I first started this journey of vlogging to you all, that basically everyone's journey is different when it comes on to the, you know, of their journey, of their encounterships, of their hardships versus whatever it may be, of basically doing what they have to do, you know, regardless what it is. I'm here all about, you know, making connections, connecting with people as well, hopefully one way or another, be it on this full screen or even in the social media and beyond. So in all further ado, guys, I welcome also back to the, you know, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content that I'm sharing with you all as well. So hopefully some of this has, like I said, inspired and motivated you all one way or another. I'm all about, you know, like I said, being that mentor, advocate, or whatever later on in life maybe, to be the person I'm hoping to be. And all further ado though, guys, this is part of an anxiety pretty much series, but not quite, which it might lead into suicidal. But basically this is all about basically like intrusive thoughts. So as we know that basically, you know, now and again we may have some thoughts intruding in our mind, and we tend to question why these arises, and basically, as we know, sometimes some of the causes and triggers of it all, we tend to question, you know, do we want to act upon it or do we not? As I said in one of my part of the chapter of the book, as well as maybe in the video, that, you know, I said upon about that dear depression, do I want to actually do the act of what I wanted to do to my life? Like, did I want to be actually that number or statistic? And in my face of reality, I chose not to, because I know better than that. I can conquer it regardless. Yes, everyone's, you know, I just said, will have their everyday struggles, big or small, no matter what it may be. And I'm just hoping that many people will hope that they can relate one way or another. So in order for the do, guys, before I run out of time, this is all about intrusive thoughts. As we know that, you know, with people that are anxious or highly anxious, that has to cope with these intrusive thoughts, the really frightening thoughts at a time, you know, sometimes we tend to, like I said, we self-absorb ourselves with certain thought patterns, you know, of all the stuff that goes on around us based on the trauma we may have faced, regardless of what it may be, and then we tend to challenge it with all these, you know, intrusive thoughts, as I'm sharing with you all, that leads to the point that we get psychotic, we hallucinate, we think that something's there when it's not. Or another example there is whenever we're really, really depressed, we tend to just, like I said, give up and just maybe, I don't know, end our life one way or another, you know, thinking that there's nothing left to do. But you got to bear in mind though, however, with these intrusive thoughts, they are real, you know. Like I said, basically with me, it has been real in my life. Basically, you know, it does haunt us and taunt us. Sometimes, like I said in my Dear Depression series, it's like to the point that there's a voice whispering sweet nothings, you know, as if basically it's creating self-doubts in yourself. Basically, you're self-doubting to the point that, you know, why am I here? You know, am I worth it? All these things that, you know, many people may, you know, have bullied us with all these labels that we're worthless, we're hopeless and all that. That's what intrusive thoughts is all about as well. Sometimes, however, we got to remember with these frightening thoughts, of these intrusive thoughts, you know, about what might have happened to us versus maybe a loved one that we so care about. we need to think, you know, what can we do for ourselves, basically, as well as for that particular someone. As I said before, basically, I'm no medical professional. I'm just an Every Joe blog, so I'm going to put it out there as this disclaimer that basically, if you see someone or know of someone that shows these classical signs of symptoms of these everyday topics that I'm addressing to you all, do seek professional help either for yourself or for that loved one, or hopefully maybe, as I shared with you, a right way to go about, you know, approaching your loved one that you see the signs and symptoms of certain things that really disturbs you to the core, and hopefully they'll have that desire to get the help they need for themselves. You know, sometimes they seem to come from all these intrusive thoughts that we tend to question ourselves, as I shared before. We tend to question, you know, where has it triggered from? Where did it come from in the first place? You know, some of it is beyond our control. As I said, it can come and go in our lives, be it if we, you know, being raped is a classic example based on a trauma that has come into our life, you know, or some other traumas that we have been through, be it like we suffered from post, you know, traumatic stress disorder of, you know, everyday classic signs of what I've shared with you all there. But then, you know, we got to remember that for some people that do suffer from these intrusive thoughts, it's a package. It's like a parcel. It's a part of them in one way or another that is filled of panic and intense anxiety. And these types of intrusive thoughts, though, however, some of these thoughts are maybe become as a result of the anxiety, basically, and they function to add more fits to that anxiety, or adding fuel to the fire of that form of anxiety that had triggered it off in the first place, maybe be a fear of alone, or just a classic, you know, generalized phobia that, you know, the fear of heights or what have you, you know. But then again, how I said it, it's all about basically, as I said, you know, maybe it's something that triggered it off in the past, be it our traumatic experience, classic example, us being raped by a particular loved one, or just some stranger in the midst of it all. Just gotta remember though, it feels like the thoughts come about as a result of the anxiety, as I said. You know, the intrusive thoughts keep the anxiety going if we add it, you know, add fuel to the fire to it. You know, and maintaining that fear-producing spiral effect of the anxiety versus the intrusive thoughts. You know, for example, basically, you know, a classic one to illustrate more about what I'm stressing to you about the intrusive thoughts. Basically, you could be thinking, or might be thinking at that time when it arises, what if I had a heart attack, you know, in the midst of an anxiety attack? Like, so the classic thing, you know, the signs and symptoms I've shared with you all about the anxiety versus the panic attacks, you know. You're already in that altered state of consciousness and state of mind, however, that, you know, we call sometimes, or shall we say, some clinical experts, not just myself, may call it anxious thinking. And the thoughts that we have may feel that we feel at that current time, even though that event hasn't eventually happened yet, may likely to happen, you know. However, there are other classes of basically intrusive thoughts, however, which many, you know, clinical experts may call them intrusive obsessive thoughts. Now, how this comes about is basically seem to come from out of nowhere. They arrive from a distressing whoosh or distressing whirlwind of whatever goes on. And the cause of it is obviously the great deal of anxiety that we're carrying. The content of intrusive obsessive thoughts almost always focus on sexual or violent images, however. These type of content of intrusive obsessive thoughts, you know, like maybe, you know, we're thinking to ourselves, I want to kill someone, I just want to stab them to death, or, you know, they're really, really hurting me, I really want to, you know, kill somebody. Or another classic example when you have these kind of ones of these intrusive obsessive thoughts is maybe if you've got a pet cat or a dog, you feel like you want to torture them to death, you know. You don't mean to, you know, with all these thoughts, it just happens naturally. But as I said, if we know the signs and symptoms before, then we should be able to actually seek the treatment, which will come up next of what I'm hoping to share with you. Stabbing a child is another classic example. Throwing someone or yourself out of a window. Jumping out onto a train track if the train is coming by, you know, on the train. Molesting a child, raping someone. Obviously, this is not a complete list, but the list will go on. But it should give you a basic ground understanding how this works and a good feeling about basically, you know, how some of these contents can invade into our thoughts whatsoever. People who experience intrusive obsessive thoughts are usually afraid that they might commit the acts that they picture in their mind, be it, like I said, like for me when I was younger, basically, you know, as we know, in the 90s, early 90s, that there was a big statistical rate of youth suicide, and obviously I still believe today it's still happening, of suicide, be it in the youth, be it in the elderly, be it whatever age and stage in life, basically. But I'm going to share more of my piece about that later on, which I know is going to be a depressing topic, so bear with me. I'm just sharing it from how I see it in my world of what I've been through versus basically, you know, witnessing it on hand about a few of my, you know, friends, shall we say, acquaintances that actually ended up losing their life. But I won't hopefully address too much why it led them to do the act, but I'll try and address it mainly on me, how it happened. But as you know, basically, you know, they might imagine hurting someone or committing an act of sexual violation. Intrusive obsessive thoughts can be very explicit to some people, and most people are even embarrassed or frightened by them, depending, you know, again, by the causes and triggers why it happened in the first place. There has been a number of myths, basically, about the intrusive obsessive thoughts, like many other mental illnesses around. The greatest myth is that having thoughts of a sexual or violent nature mean that you want to do the things that come into your mind. This is not 100% true, however. You don't want to do the things that does enter your mind you have an intrusive thought to act upon. The opposite is quite true, though. People with intrusive obsessive thoughts are usually gentle and non-violent. Many people may think, you know, when they have intrusive thoughts, they are really, really violent and that, you know, they'll just do the act anyway. But again, as I said many times before, it's all about our everyday choices, how we go about it, and when we go about it, you know, do we want to actually go along with that and just suffer from those dire consequences, even though, yes, our everyday choices will determine, you know, the present and the future of our everyday life. Anyway, the problem with intrusive obsessive thoughts, however, they do feel so bloody threatening. Excuse my terminology here. I just want to address it as much as I can to you, close to what is on my heart. That's because the anxious thinking, or, you know, you thinking so much in a way that's wounding you up in a whirlwind of all this classic anxiety, panic attack, and that. And with this thought in mind, though, it's so apparent, it might be seems to have a high probability that it might likely to occur, whatever it may be, what you were thinking. You might think, even if the probability with you of this intrusive thought that you have been programmed into your mind, however, is fairly low. The consequence of killing someone or throwing a child out the window is so enormous and horrendous that the thought that feels of getting dangerous. So basically, you know, that ends the first part of the intrusive thoughts. Give me the likes and thumbs up, or basically giving me the lowdown of how you're liking my videos or whatever else it may be. Subscribe to my channel for daily, weekly vlogs. I'm hoping, like I said, like even if you have been following me, that everything has been of value to you and that everything else will come into perspective for you. And feel free to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, AspieAnswersAll. Just private message me on AspieAnswersAll if you need someone to talk to, or just maybe a particular topic you feel for me to address, because I'm all about mental health awareness and supporting and mentoring and advocating for you all. So feel free basically to do that, and feel free to share my videos. So thanks for watching. Love what you do what you love, and I'll see you all again soon.